Welcome everybody to the 300K Entrepreneurs Challenge final pitch off for 2020 and our first ever virtual one. So this has been an interesting day. Earlier we did the social venture competition, which went extremely well, and we're looking forward to this one doing the same. I'm Cynthia Franklin. I'm director of the Berkeley Center for Entrepreneurship. And on behalf of the entire team, here we are. Really appreciate you taking time to join us. It means a lot to our team as well as to the teams that you're about to see present. I want to share with you a little bit about the Berkeley Center in case you're not familiar with us. We promote far and wide, so there may be some of you on watching right now who aren't familiar with what we do here. And essentially we provide support and resources to the NYU family who are interested in exploring entrepreneurship. And that takes on a variety of different forms. It's on the ground startup advising. We provide hundreds of hours of coaching and advising, much by our staff, but also by outside experts and volunteers who just are committed to entrepreneurship and startups. We provide a variety of workshops, boot camps, and all kinds of programming and training in different topics that are important for entrepreneurs to become well versed in, frameworks, methodologies, and tools that they can use to explore their concepts and to launch and scale. We have events, special events where we bring in founders who come and talk to the students, and it's also a great way of being inspired and building community. We are in the process of finalizing another great program that we run, which is our summer accelerators. And I should have said that all of these pictures obviously are pre-COVID. So we run summer accelerator programs where promising startups apply and are accepted into a program where we provide funding, a stipend, we provide money for prototyping, as well as tons of mentoring and coaching, as well as some fun. There's a poker night. So, you know what they say about all work and no play. Or, yeah, that's what they say. But by far, our flagship program is the 300K Entrepreneurs Challenge. The Entrepreneurs Challenge is actually 3 competitions in one. So there's a lot going on. Right now, we're about to kick off the new venture. As I mentioned, this morning was the social venture competition. And going on simultaneously as I speak is the technology venture competition. Although we are housed at the Berkeley Center, we serve the entire NYU community, including Abu Dhabi and Shanghai. We serve students, alumni, and faculty. And what they all have in common is that they have a really interesting idea and they're interested in exploring how to bring it to the world. So the Entrepreneurs Challenge is one way we do this. This year, 117 teams applied to the program. Of that 117, 27 teams were accepted. 8 finalists remained, and 3 are new venture teams, and you're going to meet them momentarily. But before you do, I want to introduce you to the fabulous judges that we have with us today. And if you happen to have a program which was emailed to you or which you might be able to access through the chat, on page 15, there are very long bios because they are also accomplished. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to give you a few nuggets in case you don't have it with you. So Sally Chung is our newbie of joining us for the first time, and we're so happy to have her here. She is the co-founder of Hello Ava, which is a company, if you're like me, you've heard of this company before. She teaches at the School of Visual Arts, interactive design, the focus on innovative startup design, and she currently advises Fortune 100 companies in design-led innovation. So join me in welcoming Sally. Yay. Okay. Next, we have with us Brian Cohen, who has been a longtime friend of the center. And I should say he's a longtime friend of the New York City startup community. He is an angel investor, an entrepreneur, an author, a mentor, and a proud grandpa. He is the founder of New York Venture Partners. He has also invested in many, many startups. He's the chairman emeritus of the New York Angels, which is one of the most active angel networks in the country. And he's the first investor in Pinterest, which, for those of you who know your Berkeley Center lore, know that Pinterest started here at the Entrepreneurs Challenge about 10 years ago, where they met Brian and where Brian was so moved that he was their first investor. So thank you, Brian, for coming back. Thank you. Another newbie today is KJ Singh, and we're so delighted to have him as well. He's managing director at Techstars, running the Comcast NVC Universal Accelerator. In that role, he has run 11 accelerator programs and has invested in more than 100 companies. And then last but not least is Alicia Surratt. Alicia is the founder of and CEO of Pentegrion Capital. And if she looks familiar to you, you've probably seen her on MSNBC, CNBC, or maybe you're one of 225,000 people who watched her TED Talk on why VCs and angel investors say no to entrepreneurs. She is a leader in the startup ecosystem. She is an incredible node. And I just have to say that she is not just a big supporter of startups in general, but of female founders in particular. And that's so important. And before we do a final clap and you send out all this good energy to our panel of judges, I just want to say that everyone here today volunteered. Each and every one of these people reached out to us at some point and said, how can I get involved? And that really is always, that means a lot to us. So please join me in welcoming our panel. Okay, so what's gonna happen now? You're about to see 3 wonderful presentations. Each of our finalists will have 9 minutes to present. They will get 20 minutes of tough, really tough Q&A and feedback from the judges. And then there will be just a very quick changeover as we switch from one team to the other. So there will not be any breaks. So that's 9 minutes uninterrupted, 20 minutes from our judges. And unfortunately, we won't be able to entertain any feedback from any of you or either verbally or through the chat. But if you have any questions or if you want to be in touch with anyone you see presenting today, feel free to reach out to us directly. The schedule looks a little bit like this. So here's where we are. Opening remarks are about to end exactly now. Fair grade will be up, followed by Warlocker and Fiduciary AI. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that you're all invited to join us at 5 o'clock, where we will be announcing the winners from all 3 competitions. There's a link at the bottom, and you probably have already received this. And you're welcome to join us. We will be doing a brief showcase so you can meet all of the teams that presented today. It'll be pretty quick. And then you'll get a chance to vote for your favorites, and then we'll announce our winners. So that's the game plan. Normally we have this really cool cocktail hour, but we're not able to do that this year. So you're gonna have to bring your own bottle. Just wanted to make that clear. So thanks again for joining us. Special shout out to our volunteers and coaches who I know are out there and have joined us. Thank you so much, because without them, we couldn't do this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Phoebe Punzalan, our Associate Director, and she's going to serve as moderator.
Great, thanks, Cynthia. So first up, we have the fair grade team. So I believe it's going to be Sonia, Anthony, and Yash presenting. So I'm going to go ahead and take Cynthia's slides off, and Sonia or Anthony or Yash, whoever of you has the slides, feel free to go ahead and share and also unmute yourselves. And as a note, Danny is going to be the timekeeper for us. So make sure that you're in gallery view and can see Danny. He's going to hold up a purple card for 3 minutes left, a yellow card for 1 minute, and then red once we've run out of time. Once that happens, we'll move into Q&A. I'll go ahead and unmute the judges, and then you guys can have a back and forth. And I think since this is the first team, we're actually going to start with the judges in reverse alpha order. So it'll be Alicia with her question first, followed by KJ, then Brian, and then Sally. Okay, so when you guys are ready to rock and roll, let us know, and Danny will start the clock.
We're ready. Good afternoon. I'm Sonia Marciano. This is Anthony Marciano. We're faculty at Stern, and we're members of the Fair Grade team. Graduate and college enrollment has increased at a 2% compounded annual rate for the past 50 years, but universities have not scaled the methods that impart critical thinking skills, particularly written assignments. As class sizes grow, multiple choice tests increase. But numerous studies suggest that these exams weaken critical thinking skills. Multiple choice encourages students to think answers are discrete and definitive. Grading is time-consuming and tedious. Stern faculty who grade spend nearly 80 hours per semester on grading. Teaching assistants spend 50 hours per semester grading. The wage that TAs receive is the equivalent of $8 per assignment. And grading a large stack of papers is unpleasant, and that's putting it very, very mildly. Additionally, students are not satisfied with the quality and quantity of feedback that they receive. While 2/3 do receive some useful feedback, while 1/3, receive useful feedback, 2/3 receive little to no feedback. Not one student responded that they were very satisfied with the quality of feedback that they receive. The solution, students grade each other. They already are because they are the TAs. Fair grade closes the gap between peer grades and grades assigned by instructors or TAs. Our crowd correcting algorithm produces an artificially intelligent virtual grader out of the crowd to efficiently provide accurate grades and actionable feedback. To crowd correct, we determine each grader's credibility. And this credibility has 3 components. One component is the student's demonstrated mastery of the material. The second component is how consistent is the student grader with the instructor. And the third component is how consistent is the student with other students who grade the same paper. These are actual results I'm putting in front of you. Fair grade has achieved a 91% correlation with an experienced TA. We gave the students each 4 papers to grade. The red dots represent a simple average of the 4 grades assigned by the student. These simple averages only correlate with the TA 0.59%. We then apply our algorithm to crowd correct. This gives us the blue dots. And this conversion of the crowd into a virtual instructor grader is the core of our value proposition. We had 0 regrade requests. Other peer grade platforms out there just give you the red dots. Students believe that peer grading is an appropriate task for MBAs, and 21% of our students actually enjoyed peer grading. Peer grading confirmed or deepened the understanding of the course material for 100% of the students. They range from confirmation to actually additional learning. I now turn it over to Yash to tell you how it works.
Thank you, Sonia. Now let's deep dive into how our solution works. For us to come up with a novel solution to this problem, we started by capturing and remodeling 3 critical aspects of classroom learning, namely the way assignments are conducted, the way peer reviews are conducted, and the way peer feedback is provided to the students. These 3 components collectively form a full loop for our platform. Let's talk about the first function, the assignments. We provide simple and accessible dashboards to both the students as well as the instructors. Using the instructor dashboard, the instructors have the ability to create classrooms, publish assignments, and then monitor the progress of those assignments. Once an assignment is published, the students can log in to the student dashboard and hand in the submissions, while they also have an option to modify those submissions. Now, once the students start handing over the submissions, our system intelligently anonymizes all the submissions and preps it for peer review, which is the next step, the peer reviews. Instructors have the flexibility to decide whether a student should grade 3, 4, 5 assignments. As a first step, the instructor uploads the grading instructions, and then our system distributes peer reviews to each student in the class, effectively deciding who reviews who. Students are now able to view the peer submissions, which are completely anonymized, and the grading rubric, which was provided by the instructor. Once the reviews are in, our state-of-the-art analytics engine runs our key modules and provides insights and a grade report to the instructors. Our system outputs 2 scores: the fair grade score, which is the system-generated score for student submissions along with a confidence interval, and a credibility score, which is the measure of students' reliability as a grader. Finally, to close the loop, the faculty or the TA can publish the peer feedback to students after checking for any bad comments. And this is what a student would see on their side. And now over to Sonia.
Thank you. Our value proposition. We think this is a much better use of school budgets. Divert faculty and TA time to actual value-added activities. We can improve the accuracy and transparency of grades. Instructors can optimize the format and number of assessments to fit the topic taught. And grading is now efficient, and performing it improves learning. We own the technology outright. No other peer grading platform has successfully developed a crowd correcting algorithm. Our moats are the complexity of our sophisticated algorithm and the traction we will have by utilizing relationships we've developed over 25 years of teaching. We've registered for a trademark on Fairgrade. We own the following URLs: fairgrade.com, .mba, .net, .us, and .pizza, because we intend to buy each class who tries Fairgrade for the first time pizza. We've earned $100K in revenues so far in corporate education, and the schools we're going to put in front of you are not just dazzling, but we have deep ties into these schools, having taught at each of them and having close relationships with faculty who all express interest in doing grading in a way that's both better and more efficient. The last circle is corporate education, which we think is a very big market because, again, that's where we earned our 100K already. We are choosing here a revenue model that is comparable to the models used by analogous products, and it is significantly cheaper than hiring a TA. And now for the valuation, I turn you over to Anthony Marciano.
Yes, using, thank you, Sonia, a typical standard valuation approach based on the business plan numbers that were previously submitted, generates a valuation between $45 and $85 million. That was done based on a typical relative value approach where we examined other ed tech companies. Obviously starts with firms like Canvas and Blackboard, but they are owned by private equity investors. In the case of Turnitin, they were recently sold for $1.75 billion or 14 times revenue. So that left me with Chegg. And I tried to be as impartial as possible. After all, I'm a corporate finance professor. So to try and avoid any biases, I just simply took the comps from Capital IQ, which included LRN and 2U, used that to generate WACs on the numbers that are in the table on the next slide. As you can see here, the betas average under 1. And that's not surprising given what we saw recently in the marketplace. When the market was tanking, some of these ed tech stocks were going in the opposite direction. Enterprise value starts at 1.1 billion, averages at 3.5 billion. And I have multiples from a range of ways, as you can see here. I included revenue multiples for 2U, which is, I didn't have any positive profits. So taking the more conservative numbers from the numbers we generated and applying those multiples, that's where you get the $45 to $85 million range. And this is far below what you get by applying Turnitin's 14 times, which would exceed $100 million easily. And I have to add one last thing, which is this did not incorporate other applications. we believe while this application to grading is near and dear to our heart as professors, we think the applications go far beyond that. Any evaluation system that uses wisdom of the crowds, as powerful as that is, could be enhanced through a credibility adjusting process. So we think there's a lot of real option value that's not incorporated here.
We have a very committed and collaborative
Sorry
team.
to cut you guys off, but we've reached the 9-minute mark, a little bit past. We're going to go ahead and have the judges do their Q&A. So as I mentioned, we're going to start actually with Alicia. We're going to do reverse chronological order. And, you know, I'll leave it to the judges if there was anything they felt like they still needed to get from the presentation, if they want to kind of extract those during the Q&A. So go ahead, Alicia.
Great. Okay. Well, listen, hopefully everyone can hear me. If I only have 5 minutes here, I want to go quickly so we can cover a lot of questions. The first question I have, which is a very obvious one, you're making $100,000 off the corporate education programs you've sold into. Why isn't that the core focus of your business?
Well, we have a lot of purpose associated with this. I'm very worried, to be quite frank, about this state of education. I think its price point and the current environment we're in is causing education to be questioned. I think this could play a role in restoring faith in education, improving the economics of universities. So I'd like to stay with my own wheelhouse first, which is
okay.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Got it. And is the idea that part of this is to replace the TA? Is part of the pitch that you're reducing costs?
Universities don't exist like to cut cost, as we all know, but they do exist to create value for society. So I would like to liberate TAs to do more research, more substantive work. Grading is pretty tedious and really just sort of a burden and a cost.
So if the university buys from you, they buy knowing that this is an additional cost that they're paying for both the TA and you.
Yes, but our cost is trivial relative to the cost of a TA. It's a few dollars per paper. It can be incorporated in the course packet, easily added to the students' payment for other books and articles they buy. It would basically blend in. It's about the cost of one HBS case.
Got it. Okay. And there is a huge team in your business plan. Is everyone full-time? Who's staying? Who's going? You know, how are you sussing out the leadership here? I just didn't know, you know, how many people are really dedicated to it versus part of the challenge process.
Anthony and I are full-time on this as the founders. Our daughter graduated from Dartmouth recently, and she is on this full-time. In fact, it was her idea. It was her bad experience receiving only grades online, no feedback, that caused us to actually think this was a good idea. We do have 2 other team members who would be interested in joining full-time if that opportunity presented itself.
As I was reading your deck, which was well done, by the way, I was wondering if part of the pitch is preventing bias, right?
Yes.
Because you anonymize all the information. You know, we see all of this data that women coders, for example, as soon as someone finds out it's a woman's, you know, miraculously their code is less than.
Yes.
And so because you're anonymizing things, is this part of the pitch to say, look, like there's no bias here?
Alicia, I didn't want to lean into both COVID and social justice. It's enough we're totally COVID ready.
Go for it.
In fact, yes, the total anonymity. I have to admit in front of everyone here, TAs know the students they're grading. It is a broken system, and it is very, very hard to be unbiased for any human being. So yes, we are introducing the absence of bias.
Got it. And we talked a little bit about how this would be additional cost for the universities, right? Is this also extra work for both the students who are involved in this and the professors? And part of me is wondering, with the professors, their answer keys are now essentially public. So I don't know if that puts an extra burden on them next year when they're creating, you know, new tests for the next semester.
Alicia, your questions are fantastic. We've thought about that. That student, you know, faculty. First off, there's a moral obligation to give students an answer key. The fact that it's not happening is problematic. So what we are doing is building a question and answer bank. You don't need very many faculty to have a really substantive answer bank for various topics. With, let's say, 10 strategy faculty, I could have a great question and answer bank for strategy. Anthony could do the same for corporate finance. So we're going to build a question and answer bank that'll in fact make it very easy to give a unique exam each time you give an exam, which is the right thing to do. You should not be reusing exams.
I think my time is up. So thank you and good luck. Over to KJ.
Thanks, Alicia. I wanted to dive deeper into the technology itself, right? So I do believe in wisdom of the crowd. If you look at the financial services market, there's Estimize. It's an interesting product, and I think there's an interesting use case in this space. But how do you solve for the cold start problem, right? When you have a new class, you have new students, so you don't necessarily know how to adjust for whether they're good graders or they're not, and you're going to continue to have new people always coming through your system.
Absolutely.
And you're always going to be having to kind of retrain these models. Can you talk a little bit more about how you think about that and how it would actually work?
Yeah, that's a key piece. So the more time goes on, the more you can trust more generic wisdom of the crowd approach. The benefit of the algorithm definitely matters more early rather than late. So you're spot on there. And the trick is the model works endogenously. So in other words, even with you're starting from scratch, even within that one assignment, it looks at whether there's agreement among students with regard to a particular paper. So endogenously tries to figure out who should be, who seems to be trustworthy and who isn't. And if the system has, the way the technology works is if the system's having a hard time doing that, it spits out confidence all the time. And if it's having a hard time figuring out, I'm not sure on this one, it'll spit out a handful that will ask the TA or the instructor to grade to kind of help it along. So if there's one where you really can't make sense of what the students are saying, because as you said, you have this cold start, the system algorithmically will spit out, you really should be grading this one yourself with somebody that you trust. In this case, we did that. In these results, we did that, and I had the TA. I didn't grade any of these results. I didn't grade any of them because I wanted to try and avoid, any bias at all. I had the TAs grade them completely separate from the students, and then just looked at how they correlated. And but we did spit out a few, and I just took the TA scores and put it on those handful.
So it's not necessarily each student and they would have an individual score. It's actually each submission that they have, right? So it's probably, you're going to see how far away they are from the right answer, right? Whatever the truth should be. Right. So in one assignment, that student can be really good and have a really great answer and be accurate, but in another, they could be way off. So you're essentially looking at how close they are to your solution set. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Got it.
And it's kind of like the way you get to put eggs in a cake mix. We let professors get their hands dirty because we show them exams they might want to look at.
I want to be respectful for the other judges on the line. I have one more question, and it's related to what Alicia was asking about the corporate model, right? Can you talk a little bit more about what they actually paid for and why they were interested in working with you?
Yeah, so I ran 2 leadership development programs, and they brought their senior people to a meeting in Nashville, and they wanted to hear uninhibited feedback on what these leaders thought about a plan that was put forth. They gave me ways to assess the credibility of various graders. I used that. They surfaced feedback on the plan that they said was worth the hundreds of thousands they paid their consultants. We did it in one afternoon. We did that for a US company, and then we also worked for KPMG in Dubai.
Great.
Thank you.
Brian, you're up.
Yeah, hi. It's always hard to follow these two. They ask all the good questions first, so I'm going to do my best. So it seems to me, and I want to sort of baseline this, you've built a business to make it easier for quality grades and feedback to be provided to a specific student. Does that simplify it?
Yes, we think that a key to learning is learning your strengths and weaknesses. And we
All right,
think
so-
it's an abomination that students don't get much feedback.
All right, okay. So on one hand, you're a rating system, as you called it, or a grading system, as you called it. You use both words, right?
Yes.
And then the feedback is a qualitative base of input that each of the peer groups are providing. When I say peer groups, individual students of their peers.
Yes.
And is it reasonable to believe that their peers can provide the qualitative wisdom of feedback that a teacher, a professor, or even a TA can provide? Why would I want to listen to the feedback of my fellow students when they're in the same class, learning the same thing and under the same pressures I am? I don't understand that. Why do I trust that feedback? And how does this exclude the feedback I would ordinarily expect from the professor or the TA?
I think it's easy, and I've done it myself. It actually works quite well for the faculty to now come in and complement the feedback that you receive. First of all, here quantitatively, we're showing you what the algorithm does, and it really compresses the peers with the student. Also, faculty hire TAs.
I'm talking about the feedback now. I'm talking specifically about the feedback.
But-
Okay, I'm focused on feedback, not the grades.
Okay. I can review the feedback before it's released, and I should do that. It's a lot less time consuming to review and confirm that you agree with feedback than to write it from scratch. So I would definitely use this as a productivity tool, not a full-blown replacement.
So forgive me, okay, now you're making it a little bit clearer. So this is added value to the professor or TA to provide feedback.
That's correct. And I have to let you know, the vast majority of the time, you don't get any instructor feedback, especially on a course like mine, which was the case.
All right, so that's a crisis of education,
Yes.
generally speaking,
Right,
okay?
but we're not solving that problem. We're saying that given you're going to do that, and I could easily show you, the guys on the team will laugh at this. When we got to see the feedback that the TA, because I mentioned before that I had the TAs graded separately from the students. If I showed you the comparison between what the TA feedback was versus the collection of the 4 students that graded each paper, you would be shocked at how inferior the TA feedback was.
And here's
Right.
survey results. We surveyed the students who went along with that class data we just showed you, and over 90% said their feedback contained.
No, I got that. Let me go on with my other questions, please.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I apologize for interrupting.
No.
I just got about 30 questions to get through.
Okay.
Okay. What are the legalities here? I know that it's been tested in courts about students providing grading for other students and issues of privacy, because the students will know sort of kind of who the student is who wrote a particular paper, perhaps. How blind is it? And what are those issues legally?
It's fully anonymous. And what we know to be true, here, I work in an executive program that's a joint venture between NYU, HSA, and LSC. Try to combine the 3 regulatory standards of 3 different schools from 3 different countries. What I know from working in that program is you can use peer grading, but instructors are required to oversee, meaning to confirm their agreement with those grades.
So there's no legalities, because obviously I read your materials and I found a whole host of court issues about students grading other students. And has that been reviewed by you?
We have on our advisory board, Neil Rader. We're going to work with the regulators at NYU, but because of the way we anonymize the papers, it is not really conceivable that there's a giant risk. Look, if there's exposure for our platform, then a student TA should never be hired. They're given a stack of papers with the names on the paper. So if that isn't a violation, this sure as heck isn't.
One of the most famous lawsuits was Turnitin, and that's a completely different type of.
So if a student provides poor feedback, how do you know that?
I can see the grades. I can then go look at the feedback.
Not grades, feedback. How do you know they're providing poor feedback that they didn't even read the assignment?
Okay, well, we have the students grade the graders. So if I get a student that says, I looked at my feedback and it was totally useless, then the student who graded that student wouldn't get points. We assign grading instead of homeworks because we've learned it's more added value to have them evaluate each other's work than to just do homeworks where they just get a check.
And my last question, what's their incentive to provide excellent feedback? I don't want to take up too much more time, but what's the student's incentive to provide high quality feedback?
Because, okay, go.
So you get a credibility score as well. And the credibility score, I told them, will be a component of the grade in the course. It was only 5%. And I even gave them the option to play or not, right? So I told you, this is the deal. You get a credibility score out of 5. If you do not want to participate, you do not have to. Somewhere around 90% of the class participated, and not a single student asked for a regrade at any time that we've done this before, which doesn't happen to me in any other class. So they get grades back and feedback, and yet not a single person has contacted me after the class.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question. I asked, what's the incentive for the student to provide qualitative feedback? I missed that.
Oh, the feedback piece.
They get points for doing a good job grading, and we have the students grade their grader. When they get their feedback and their grades back, what did you think about the feedback and the grades?
So it's not anonymous? How do they know who the grader was specifically?
They don't know who the grader was, but they know the feedback they got. And was the feedback you got good, useful, helpful, accurate? And so they grade the feedback.
Okay, thank you.
And also, it'd be very hard to get a high credibility score if your feedback was inappropriate. So the credibility score is a component. And I don't know how you can not read them. That happened, by the way. I had some students that clearly barely read the paper. Their feedback was horrible. They ended up with a terrible credibility score, and they were informed of that.
I love this. I love what's going on. Sally, we're going to continue with you. And Danny, I hope you're listening. Let's do 21 minutes for Q&A for this team and all the following teams. So Sally, go ahead.
Sure. First of all, congratulations, great job, and yeah, great product. I also teach at SVA, so I was able to resonate with the user's pain point, that why you guys developed this product. My first question is, when you think about desirability, viability, and feasibility, the desirability seems like it will be like the key component that you guys have to validate. The first question is, what will be your first MVP features for your product? And second question would be, for the pilots you guys have run in the past, how have you validated that desirability, and what was their challenge?
Well, we ran a number of surveys. In fact, we a little bit tortured our students with surveys because we wanted to understand how they felt about the experience of having peer graded. And what we found is that they didn't find this system difficult to use. They found it very comparable to courseware that they currently use. And we had 90% of them say they got some or a lot of valuable feedback. And we had a number of them, I showed you earlier, over 80% said they thought it was a very appropriate task, or they actually enjoyed it. 21% actually enjoyed giving the feedback. For me as a faculty member, I get this very nice, clean, like, here are the grades, here's the feedback each of the students got. And so I can look at it. I don't feel like it's a black box I don't control. I have a lot of control over, like, am I liking what I'm seeing? Additional features we're going to add is the ability to easily word search all of the feedback to make sure all the words used are appropriate and things like that. But we feel very good about the feature that the students grade the grader. So they don't know who each other is. We've used it several times. We have no problem with identities being revealed or anything like that. But knowing that the student will give the faculty feedback on the feedback you gave them, we find is a very disciplining effect.
And to echo what Sonia is saying, and to answer your question, also the way we wanted to work on the MVP was we've kept the focus to complete the loop, and for that reasons we've only focused on what's the more important part, which is the student dashboard to start with, and we've kept it to very limited feature sets and supporting only individual assignments for now, and slowly we want to add more features on top of it.
Got it. Yeah, that answered my question. Yeah, so the quick feedback is, yeah, I would highly recommend to keep testings with the real platform and the real MVP features besides running the surveys. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, great. Danny, if you're on the line, can you confirm if we have any extra time? One more minute? Okay, does anybody have a real quick question?
I do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Alicia.
Was curious to hear a little bit more about the sales process. Are you pitching professors directly? Are you pitching institutions? What does that look like?
I'm pitching professors directly, and I feel really excited about how enthusiastic they are. Another thing is I've talked to I was an instructor at HBS for 3 years, and I talked to HBS Publishing, and they have a chronic problem, which is that students share course packets. So we're talking with them about possibly being our distributor, because if we distribute through HBS, then students would have to purchase the course packet to be graded.
All right.
Just a quick question. Can the students be paid for doing this extra work?
Absolutely. We've already thought about a way to reward students with gift cards, gift certificates, things like that. So we can create a revenue model out of that. And it's a really good idea. I actually like that idea.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to the Fair Grade team. I know everybody's muted, but let's at least see everybody giving them a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
So
you for your time.
if you guys would go ahead and mute yourselves back, and Stanley and Kyle, if you guys would unmute yourselves, and then you guys can go ahead, share your screen. There it is. So same thing. So for Stanley and Kyle, purple card for 3 minutes, yellow for 1 minute, red for time is up. So be sure you can see Danny. Afterwards, we'll do 21 minutes of Q&A. And for the judges, for the second go round, we'll do straight alpha order. So we'll start with Sally this time, then Brian, KJ, and Alicia for questions. So you let us know when you're ready, and then once you're ready, Danny will start the clock.
All right, sounds good. Give me like 5 seconds. I'm gonna stretch it out real quick. All right. Good afternoon, judges of a 300K competition. Thank you for being here. My name is Kyle.
My name is Stanley. Hi.
And together, we're the Warlocker team. Thank you for being here. Before I get into the business, let me just tell you a quick story. I moved to the States from Taiwan when I was 13, and one of the very first things I did to assimilate to a new culture was playing football, America's favorite sport, arguably. As you can see from West Virginia kicker Josh Lember here, you don't really control where you get tackled on the field, so I needed some protection. Therefore, it was the very first time in my life that I came to know this gear called athletic cups. I put it on the first time, hated it immediately, and so did all of my teammates for good reasons. Traditional athletic cups, as you picture here, typically come with a pair of compression shorts. Within compression shorts, there's a pocket inside of it, and with the pocket, they give you this rigid piece of plastic, and players just expect to shove this plastic into the pocket and expect everything to be okay. Well, it really wasn't okay. If you look at it, the only element of stability is the compressing aspect of the fabric. And this design presents several issues in the sense that if a player gets tackled from one angle and the cup moves and gets tackled from a different angle, which is a regular occurrence, as you can imagine, what's meant to protect you in the first place can actually end up hurting you, causing serious life-permanent damage. 10 years later, after I graduated from college, I realized nothing has changed. The same company was just selling the same cups. A quick search on YouTube and on the internet, you can find many similar complaints like this.
If you are going to spar and you are a man, protect your groin. Buddy goes on to say, normally I wouldn't mind, but I keep hearing horror stories about cups not being properly fitted. And those are legitimate stories, yeah. Not being properly fitted and secure, and a bad strike hitting at such an angle that the testicles get completely smashed. Yeah, that has happened. That does happen if you're not wearing it correctly. This is a major fear preventing me from wearing a cup.
Now, Stan and I did more research of our own. We realized there are many people out there just like this guy and his students. Earlier this year, we spoke to over 50 combat sports athletes in person with our first product sample, and over 95% of them have had some kind of issue with the cups. We picked the 2 quotes over here because they're very much representative of what the overall sample size had to complain about the gear. On the left-hand side corner, we have semi-pro Muay Thai fighter Alvin Johnson. As you can see, he's literally tying extra knots around his Muay Thai style cup to provide elements of stability and adjustability because the gear simply didn't provide it. And he's, by the way, here's testing out our initial prototype. Over here, you have Stanley checking out the current inventory carried out by traditional retailers. They're homogeneous, they all look the same, feel the same, and again, they don't solve the issues they're meant to solve. And then we realized that there's actually a bigger thing here. In the sporting goods itself, they're sold like commodities. They're mass manufactured. They don't take into account of user-centric design thinking. If you look at shin guards, even if you've never worn shin guards in your life, structurally they look exactly the same as athletic cups and present the same issue in the sense that the shin guard regularly moves because the only point of compressing of stability is the socks. Therefore, players sometimes have to use sock tape to tape it around to prevent it from moving. And when they don't, things like this can happen when this guy literally has no idea what shin guards have gone in the middle of a game. And moments like this can create, again, life-permanent injuries. Dumbbells and barbells, on the other hand, we realize regularly cause wrist pain for good reasons and also forearm pain. A quick research on YouTube can tell you many examples, simply because of the rigid nature of the bar themselves. As a result, when lifters are rotating their wrist, doing this rotating motion, it creates uneven points of tension across the user's wrist, and again, repeatedly will cause lifelong damage. Again, I think at this point we have to identify a common theme here is that athletes are literally just trying to come up with ways to prevent injuring themselves due to the inefficacy of sporting goods. And that's why we at Warlocker believe we're different. I know you guys seen our indoor demo video already, but please let me show you our outdoor demo video to show you why our first product, the patented solution A3 Jock, is truly different and superior.
See, unlike traditional athletic cups, the Jock is scientifically engineered to hold the line and guard under any circumstances. Every unit is reinforced with 3 superior protective layers, which together protect you from even the most relentless impact. An all-withstanding protective outer shield is cushioned by a shock-absorbing foam bridge and fortified by flexing wedges on the side, allowing total flexibility and complete protection from all sides. The Warlocker A3 Jock is designed to provide total durable protection without sacrificing an ounce of comfort. With an adjustable belt, the Jock's built-in plating ensures complete safety from your lower abs down to your manhood. The understrap is easy to wear and to remove, while snugly securing the foam cushion Jock in place in the middle of the action. Armed with uncompromising comfort and ultimate defense, this is the Jock for every fight. Warlocker, protect your legacy.
Now, I know you guys can, as you can tell, we're doing several things differently compared to traditional athletic cups. It is the only stable solution because we have 2 points of enforcement of the belt that's being adjustable, and the underbelt is also adjustable, which are features that no product in the market has. It is the only flexible cup out there because of symmetric cuts design that we have, and it is the only truly comfortable cup out there because forget about compression shorts. We have eliminated the need for athletes to wear compression shorts, and they can simply wear this outside of whatever undergarment they desire. And by the way, they can remove this in the middle of a practice without going to a locker room. Our next 2 products are also patent pending. They're under development. They're D1 grips and actual shin guards. I won't talk much about them right now. I'll just say that they are created for the purposes of alleviating the issues that I mentioned earlier with traditional dumbbells and barbells and shin guards. Now, please let me talk a little bit about the market landscape that's Jock specific. The global sports protective equipment is around $10 billion, with mixed martial arts equipment being $1 billion, and cup being obviously part of that market. And the MMA segment is growing at 25% compounded annual growth rate, according to industry reports. We're going to be competing against our high-end competitors, where brands like Shock Doctor, Diamond MMA, and Jocko reside. We're going to retail at $79.99 per unit. Of course, with potential partners like the sports leagues, NFL, UFC, and whatnot, we have distribution channels and marketing platforms with sporting goods associations and different sports media technology platforms. And of course, given that we own all of our underlying technology, there's going to be partnership and licensing opportunity down the road for us as well. Now, our initial go-to-market plan before COVID-19 was to focus on the B2C segment. So we started talking, again, like I mentioned, we spoke to over 50 combat sports athletes, many of them train at Evolution Muay Thai in Soho, New York, and the UFC gym. So both places were instrumental for us to gather user data and just to start building relationships to try to build out an ambassador endorsement program. That's the kind of idea we had initially. Of course, we picked guys like Brendan, because he's the owner of a fight gym who's literally uploading videos onto YouTube, teaching his students on how to properly put on a heavily flawed Muay Thai cup. Now, as you guys can see, around April and March, once we've had our user testing scheduled, gyms began closing. So we have to simply follow with Brendan on a future date when they're back to training. Same thing with Albert over here. As a result, we decided to do a little more testing in the B2B market. And currently, 2 retailers have already expressed verbal interest to carry A3 Jock samples. The moment that we have enough samples for them, we only have 5 of them on hand right now. Part of the reason we need money is to purchase the initial run of inventory. Lifestyle Sports is based out of Wonton, New York. Native Outdoor Store is based out of Boston, which has been around for 80 years, by the way. This is the latest exchange we have with them right now as of this month. Again, both retailers are very excited about the product. I don't know them personally before the interaction. The only reason I'm in here is because they simply see the values that I'm offering for them. And we can talk a little bit more about it, about current situation as well. The mission is sports protection with high performance in mind. Hopefully you guys can see the theme here. Our vision is that we can provide a tangible and urgent solution that's proprietary and superior, and we operate in a sleepy segment that hasn't innovated for the past decade. And here's our core team, and we're out of time, so we look forward to your questions, and also how I have my business model canvas here for your Q&A purposes. Thank you.
Great, thank you to both you and Stanley as well. I see Cynthia there clapping. So judges, we're gonna go ahead and turn it over to you for Q&A. So again, we're gonna do 21 minutes in alpha order. So we'll start with Sally.
Great. Yeah, congratulations to your team and developing such a cool product. I also play Kendo, and my husband also plays Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 20 years, so I'm exactly knowing your pain point.
Saving a free sample.
Great. Yeah, so, and also great job on user testing already with your users, with your prototype and iterating based on the learnings. I feel like when it comes to physical products, user testing is a must. But I would like to know what your future vision is for your company. How do we envision the company to be in 5 years? Because there's a difference between startup and a small business. So if you guys can convince us why we should invest in your future, that would be great.
Yeah, so absolutely. Thank you for the great question. Again, I really do think we have identified a common theme here and a common need within sporting goods in general. And we're not just saying that just to make it sound like a bigger valuation on paper. Is that we create only products based on flaws of existing products. So we came up with the Jock solution and the shin guard solution for very similar reasons, because the 2 products are physically, scientifically structured very similarly, right? The cup has got the compression aspect, compressing against the user's body, creating unwanted distraction. Same thing with shin guards. It just sucks compressing this hard piece of plastic. So in our vision is that, well, there's so many flawed solutions. They have a common flaws. We have come up with something structurally that's better and superior and that's proprietary and protectable. I think we have something here in the future to really revolutionize sporting goods in general. And we're not just saying that just to sound like we're just one of those teams to make a world a better place, Or we're actually genuinely creating products for specific reasons that are flaws-based, based on existing solutions. So again, I think this slide is kind of key to what you're getting at, is that we think this is going to apply. It doesn't matter we're selling 1 product, 3 products, or 10 products down the future.
Got it. Yeah. So due to COVID situation, what is the alternate solution? Because all the gyms are closed. So what I would like to know, like what your next plan is for the next year.
So yeah, so even though gyms have been closed, they are starting to get back training slowly. Same thing, the B2B segment, retailers starting to get traffic back slowly as well. So this summer, Stanley and I also in the NYU Summer Launchpad program through the eLab, and we're actually trying to figure out what's the most time efficient, capital efficient way to convert both leads in the current quarantine situation. And we don't have answers for that. We're still in the testing phase, but what we do know is there's enough tangible interest. I don't know any of these people, and we're able to get in there simply with a sample and the videos. And when the time is right, sports is going to come back and the demand's going to come back, and we're going to be there to capture it.
Thanks so much, Sally. Let's move on to Brian with a question.
Yes, very specifically, let me focus on the words you're using. You're saying that you are proprietary. You're saying that you're better, but I haven't heard anything that describes what that actually means relative to the competition, which there apparently are 50 to 100 cups out there that you compete with. So can you please clarify when you say you're better and you're more proprietary? There are two words you used in your last sentence. You said you hope you'll be okay as a successful company, and then you said, I think we'll be okay. So you don't seem too sure about your product.
I'm absolutely certain, because the fact that we haven't gotten patent on the first invention shows that there is something protectable and proprietary simply on a legal.
What is that patent, please?
What is a what?
Can you explain that patent, please?
Yeah, of course. So a few claims we have on the patent is the very first thing. The structure of the cup itself. It's got 3 layers. In the middle is actually like a shoe gel type of shock absorbent material. And again, the symmetrical cuts on the side is the reason that the cup is the most flexible solution out there. And the whole thing is actually those 3 layers are covered together by fabric foam. It's not pressing against the body as like a rigid piece of plastic. And again, another claim is our adjustable and stable belt and understrap functions, which no other cup currently has. All the cups that you see right now, none of them is adjustable, and none of them is as nearly as stable as ours, simply for physical and scientific reasons.
So just quick follow-up, how many different products within the cup, how many different sizes will you be offering? Because it's about a quality fit, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, based on our conversation with retailers, they really sell to everyone from student athletes to the pros. So it really depends on what our first initial order looks like and what the client looks like and what the client needs. We're going to come up with different sizes for kids and adults, and that's not to us, it's not a concern. Our manufacturing partner can easily work with us to do whatever is needed. And just to put a face, this is a guy, Alan. He's actually able to provide me, by the way, just full disclosure, I spent $2,500 to this guy to get a market ready production sample. The thing that you see right now, I literally spent $2,500 so far on this. And I know I'm getting off a little tangent, but I just wanted to tell you that yes, this is absolutely proprietary, absolutely IP protectable, absolutely better and superior. Any questions? And lastly, we are somewhat operationally competent to be able to find a supplier that can supply us for $2,500 to come up with a production sample, including molding.
Okay, great. KJ, do you have a question?
Yeah, Kyle, thank you so much. I wanted to know a little bit more about your go-to-market, right? So you mentioned that initially you were thinking it's going to be a direct-to-consumer product, and then you mentioned because of COVID, you're going to have to go and explore wholesale and working directly with retailers. Can you talk about, obviously what you want to focus on, and even if you do strike up these partnerships with wholesalers or retailers, how will people actually know about the product, and why will they buy it?
Yeah, so we want to first come up with different sales promotions, whether it's in-store, maybe leaving an iPad of showing my product demo, or whatever. There are creative solutions out there. But I know when the incentives are aligned correctly, we can work with our distribution partners to come up with to promote the product. But I think the merit is there. So we're not so much worried about what distribution channel, what segment, what channel is right. We're still trying to figure out what's time efficient and capital efficient, and most importantly, we want to make sure our first order requirement of 500 to 1,000 units are high quality samples that people are happy with. So to your, the later part of your question is what's our kind of objective through all of this? It's just, we want to reach our first inventory requirement. That's kind of a bigger thing, right? The factory requires to make 500 to 1,000. We try to go above 1,000. So as long as we can generate enough demand, whether it's B2B, B2C, above the $1,000, whether it's an LOI or a handshake agreement, we're somewhat happy with the risk somewhat of our initial part of our go-to-market.
Yeah, no, that's what I was getting at is I don't understand how you're going to generate. I mean, look, when you're thinking about different types of athletes, they probably have a checklist of equipment that they need to buy. Maybe they just go to Amazon, just click, and just add it to their basket. But my whole thing is, how do you actually get people to know about Warlocker and the product you've created? What is the marketing? I mean, how are you actually going to get this in front of people? And how will they know that this is what they should buy versus something that might be cheaper or might look better in packaging? I mean, you mentioned that you're going to do these ambassador programs, but it's not like a boxing glove where people can actually see the brand visible. It's not a headgear that the brand is right there. It's not necessarily visible. If you think about shin guards, the sock is going to be over that. It's hidden again, right? All these things are hidden, so it's not visible. So how do you actually think about getting in front of the people that need to buy it?
So I know we don't have our packaging imaging show right now, but I just tell you the concept right now. We're gonna have a drawstring bag, which basically is, comes with dozens of packs for like $10 a pack. And we're gonna imprint basically our logo onto the drawstring bag and make the drawstring bag basically the packaging of the cup itself. So when the players are carrying our gear to the gym, they're physically carrying with a bag that we gave them for free. Now onto the ambassador endorsement program, point you're talking about. That's exactly what we're thinking about when we're even begin launching our website. Is that we wanted to gather enough testimonials because when we asked the fighters, like, hey, how do you shop for a cup? What was the best cup you ever wore? None of them remember the brand. They just said, hey, my coach told me this. I saw a sporting blog here and there. I did my own research, but they don't have any loyalty to the brand they actually purchased. It's almost like a mundane chore they have to fulfill. Having known that, we knew we need to get spokesperson, whether it's a fighter, a trainer, and celebrity athletes, someone people trust, right, in this segment. And that's why we're trying to build relationship with Brendan, the owner of these gyms, the UFC gym, trying to get that program going. But again, as you can see from the timestamp here, it's March and April. It's back in March and April, and based on the conversation I'm having with traditional retailers, that's less than 2 weeks ago. And just FYI, my conversation with the retailers, I spoke to 4 of them on the phone. 3 of them met with me in person or are interested. 2 of them actually wrote this email. If I just replicate this process this summer, I'm pretty confident we're gonna gather enough for our first inventory order size requirement.
Right.
I think also all these people are strangers to us before we really just talk about the product.
Great. So thanks, KJ. We're gonna move on to Alicia, and then we'll check in with Danny to see how much time we have left, and hopefully we can get in even a couple more questions. Go ahead, Alicia.
Hey, Kyle. So I read in your business plan that you had a quote done for insurance. Was that a product liability quote?
It's a business insurance. So business liability, yeah.
But so does product liability, is that included in that? So if something goes wrong with the cups, someone gets injured?
And just FYI, full disclosure, I got a quote about middle of last year because I thought I was going to launch earlier than I thought. Whole MBA thing started, so I had to go to school. So I wanted to get a new quote done and get more.
How much was the quote?
$6,000, $7,000 premium.
Okay. And you talked about a retailer strategy, right? I saw Natic outdoor store, lifestyle sports. I mean, it's great to start somewhere, but they're really not going to move the needle. But at the same time, this whole store presence, the retailer presence is really tough. Curious to know if you've been following the news around Modell's bankruptcy. Also, if you have maybe read equity research on Dick's Sporting Goods, just to get your arms around the competitive landscape so you can understand, how to pitch these stores in this environment.
So, you're right. I mean, in a macro environment, I used to work in commercial real estate, right? So if you work in retail, you're basically a real estate arbitrager in the sense that you're just trying to get whatever can above your lease operation expenses. Whatever you're selling, you're trying to get above that. Now, can these sporting goods store one day create a more experienced?
Kyle, did you read the equity research?
The equity research?
Have you read equity research around Dick's Sporting Goods? It's a publicly traded company. I'm just curious to know if you've gotten smart.
I haven't gone over the 10K, but I am aware of the general retail landscape.
Okay. You said you have not read the 10K, no?
I have not read the 10K, no.
So I'm going to switch gears on the direct-to-consumer front. It looks like you're also going down that route too. And I read in your business plan, you said you spent $272.65 to drive people to the website. Only 2 visitors signed up to the newsletter out of 432 clicks. Is that successful?
That was the very first thing I did on the Facebook advertising, like feed thing on our Facebook page. I only did that just for disclosure because we simply needed some numbers just to have some numbers, understanding what does it look like? What if I spend money in this, channel, if I spend some money on that channel, but I don't have enough money to toss around. So $200 all I really want to spend to see what I get out of it. And
yeah, but it's more the ratio. Do you consider that a successful rate? 2 people out of 432
No,
people?
but I also don't believe that we got a denominator right, in the sense that conversion only makes sense if you have your denominator being your target audience. I have no idea what the Facebook, target audience, what it looked like. Did any of the people that saw this thing even ever wore a cup themselves? I have no idea of any of those things.
Hey, just a heads up, on your website, you have the word patented misspelled. So the other question I wanted to ask is, you talked about the market capitalization of 1 billion, the global MMA equipment market at 934 million to be exact, but that's both men and women, correct?
Correct.
And so obviously we're talking about some portion of that, and then it's also not just cups. What is the market for cups?
It would be around, can only estimate it, below 500 million mark, just because I know for the majority of the 1 billion figure you mentioned, it's actually gloves and other equipment, which MMA essentially, gloves and cups are really the only 2 things they wear.
And how many purchases of cups are people making in a lifetime?
I did want to look it up. I don't have specific data on that, but based on just colloquial conversations I had with fighters, not more than 5. But many of them actually went through quite a few different ones, because as you can see from Albert's quote here, he's not alone. Many of them tried several different cups throughout their entire life, and they just kind of like find one that they can tolerate. So
okay.
And I will fix that typo. Thank you for catching that. I did not know that. That's our job.
Danny,
it's with a T, not a D.
5 minutes left.
All right. Any other judges with questions? Love what's going on. Brian?
Yeah, so is this try and buy? You just said you sort of try it and then return it.
Try and buy, you mean, are we gonna offer return?
Yeah, you said that a moment ago. You said try it and buy it.
Sorry, I was telling to the more like in the retail segment, as in like I would give them a few samples, like they will buy those samples, maybe like 20, 30 of them. If they're happy, they'll give us more.
Okay, quick follow-up question. There's helmets that have been created with devices and sensors that can tell you how hard it's been hit. Are you considering putting any kind of sensor in these so that somebody gets a better perspective on how hard it's been hit? Because there's no proof that you're better than another at this point.
Right, only just simply from a visual and feeling perspective, nothing in metrics or scientific metrics in like a sports lab setting. Hey, if we have the funding, we can do any of those stuff, So right now, our proprietary put together solution is kind of this, but in the future, yeah, all those things that you mentioned, there's no reason we won't explore them. Given that's what kind of we're about, is technology in this space.
Great. Anybody else? Any other judges with questions?
Just a comment, great branding. I love the name.
Thank you. It's not just a cup thing, right? It applies to everything.
So if there are no other judges with questions, do any judges have feedback for them in the last, what do we have, like a minute left, Danny, or 2 minutes? 3 minutes. Plenty of feedback that can be had in 3 minutes.
I have one question. Have you guys thought of Kickstarter route or crowdfunding?
We have, I think 6 months to a year ago, we had some kind of that idea, but I think eventually we thought it was more important to get our endorser, ambassador kind of channel built out first before we try to go direct that route. But it's just kind of a corporate strategy we had to make.
Yeah, that's great. And I think martial arts is also about community. So my feedback would be also target the communities.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, Alicia, I think you might.
Yep, got it.
There you
I have
go.
a comment. So I heard you say something like, if we get the funding, then X, Y, Z. And I get where you're coming from. And at the same time, I think there's a lot of work that you could still do that is not, you don't have to have the funding to do it, right?
Yeah,
Some of the things that we mentioned.
I won't say that about sensor specific. If you want me to build a technology sensor into this, I need funding. There are many things we can do for free, for sure. I agree
Well,
with
I mean, I think broadly, there's a lot of questions where there was research you could have done on your end, or you could have shored up the website, or you could have had more articulate answers for some of the data that was requested. And I guess I just want to stress, like, hearing those words or that kind of phrase is a little discouraging, because I feel like there's a lot that you could do, even having more information around the potential for sensors, or saying, like, if we wanted to proceed, we would have, I think there are a lot of more fulsome answers you could give when asked questions like that, instead of just saying, like, well, we need money to be able to do this.
Well, I don't want to make it clear. I always say the money thing because, sensors kind of, it's out there. It's the next frontier, Fitbit, all that. I get it. But we only want to create solutions, again, with existing flaws are so evident. And it's almost like people are telling us we have these issues. And we just want to come up with solutions that fix those issues. That's how, again, our vision is that we don't want to just chase the next, hot thing just because it's a sensor or it's a cool thing on paper. We only want to fix tangible, urgent issues.
I agree with Sally, by the way, that I would strongly encourage you to think about a crowdsource campaign. And I think that would give you a really good sense of demand from your consumer base. And I'd strongly encourage you to do that before you proceed.
Great, thank you.
I concur with that.
One last thing, Kyle, some of the things about the sensors and stuff, right? So, I mean, I think Brian was asking, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, it's just, how do you know that you're better, you're actually solving a problem, right? So there are other ways to kind of get to that information rather than having sensors. You can do some sort of a drop test, right? Putting some weight on something to see how much it's more protected than the existing solutions in the market. You can kind of do some other tests that are low tech, but actually give you some evidence. And I'm sure you've done some of this, but just being articulate around the answers. I'm not asking you to answer right now, but just when people ask, just say, hey, look, this is what we've done, and this is how we know that it's a better product than exists on the market.
Yeah, just one quick answer. We're playing with an idea in our head to have a dash run test, to have two different players who wear, for example, one traditional athletic cup, and who wears our cup, and see which one runs faster using under some kind of condition. But we are playing around ideas like that to create data that we can use. So, well taken point.
Thank you, Kyle. Good luck to you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Alicia.
All right. Thank you so much, Kyle and Stanley both. All right, so we've wrapped up now with the Warlocker team. We're gonna move on to Fiduciary AI. I do see John and Cynthia both there, so go ahead and share your screen. I think you guys have already gotten the lowdown on the timer cards, so I'm not gonna go through that again. For the judges, the order that we'll do for Q&A for this one is KJ 1, Alicia 2, Sally 3, Brian 4. So go ahead, John and Cynthia, let us know when you're ready, and that will prompt Danny to start the timer.
Absolutely.
All right, John, you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Cynthia Steer, and John Naraki and I are so thrilled to be presenting FAI to you. We're thrilled because we believe in FAI, and we believe it touches the lives of almost everybody in the room and everybody that you talk to. I sit on 6 committees, investment committees, and John and I have participated in over 17,000 meetings during the course of our careers. And one of the things we know is we always have to do more with less. And today, more from assets means a great deal. I sit on the committee of a healthcare institution, an education institution, 2 community foundations, and a diocese. And we're all stretching, and we're all trying to do more with less. FAI reaches across those borders and tries to make the best and most effective committee meetings we can do. You look at this slide, it's a bunch of Post-its. The Post-its are, but every one of those Post-its represents a task that you have to do during the committee cycle. And those don't go away. And we've been doing the same thing since the mid-90s. So making due today does not work if you are a fiduciary. And you know, it costs somewhere between $20,000 and $250,000 for each plan to run a DC plan or to do most of the fiduciary responsibilities around meetings. And more than that today, there's fiduciary liability and there's more significant personal liability. I was stunned to think as we were putting this presentation together that since 2015, $1.2 billion has been put out in costs and in litigation, all right? And today, it's not only with the big DC plans, it's with smaller DC plans, all right? There are over 100 cases pending right now, and they go for a variety of issues. And I was on a phone call this week, and it was just remarkable that the judges are now focusing on best practices and robust documented decision-making. This has not been the case in many committees.
So Cynthia is describing, this is a big problem. There's the direct costs, there's liabilities, but there's more than 885,000 investment committees in the United States. As building investment product for more, that's grown to more than $10 billion in assets, you know, I and Cynthia both are keenly aware of the complexity of managing these portfolios that committees have to look at. There are highly technical requirements to put together portfolios. Regulatory requirements are only increasing, and you need to employ more complicated investment strategies now just to get more return and manage your risks. So just getting to decisions is a highly technical and very involved process. But what often is the problem where committees trip up and cause these issues that we've outlined is in simple discipline, not having a sound process, not documenting a decision. This is what trips up some highly talented professionals and causes the issues that we've seen before. Well, there's a reason for that. What I'm presenting here is the current competitive marketplace for what we call the fiduciary marketplace. At the bottom, you see what is needed to conduct a full fiduciary process. So that's end to end, everything from planning, making sure you're covering the right topics, and documenting. This is the process that was mentioned in that litigation slide that Cynthia mentioned. Well, we see that there are some solutions here, but they only solve a small part of the problem. So I think a good example of, or a well-known example would be Diligent and those providers that actually put together meeting materials in an efficient manner. But importantly, only a part of the problem is being solved. And that is the opportunity for Fiduciary AI. Fiduciary AI is the first end-to-end portal of a fiduciary solution for the 885,000 investment committees that we outlined. It addresses all of the fiduciary needs that are outlined at the bottom, everything from the rules, documenting, conducting an appropriate meeting, and then finally documenting and archiving these materials so they can be audited at a later date. So what's unique in FAI is it's taking everything from beginning to end, and more importantly, it takes Cynthia's and my expertise in this industry and builds them into the application. So our response with Fiduciary AI is a SaaS application. It's composed of 4 modules that you see before you that solve the requirements that you saw on the prior pages. So we've got a fiduciary manager module that contains all of the rules for the committee, manages the people, and has your year at a glance or things you need to cover in a year. The meeting manager is where the meetings are executed. They're planned, they're conducted. That's where we have the artificial intelligence that listens to a meeting and actually documents what's happening on. And then we have workflows and the minute manager and archive that take these materials, put them through a documented workflow and archive them for future auditing use. Our user experience starts with a web portal where someone will take responsibility at the committee for keeping all of the data. And some things I want to note is that we've built our expert workflows into the application. So for you to get to B, you need to finish A. In this case, you need to finish everything that you need to do in the fiduciary manager before you get to the meeting manager and so forth. So in this case, it truly is an end-to-end solution. We also have a smart device application. This is used by users during a committee meeting itself. So committee members actually participate in the meeting, can track what's happening, and actually give their presentation, vote, everything you do in a normal committee meeting through your smartphone. And again, this is all recorded and documented in real-time meeting minutes. Fiduciary AI is a subscription-based model. Our monthly price or monthly subscription is between $370 and $450 per committee, and that's our rack rate. However, our direct technology costs of roughly $100, $125 allow us some margin to work with distributors. So building into distribution or organizations that have a marketing presence already with those 885,000 investment committees. Our focus for 2020 and 21 is getting retail traction, and we are confident that with some tweaks to the application, but more importantly, complementing the founder's sales model and adding a salesperson, we could be at roughly 500 subscribers by the end of 2021. We have a minimum viable product. We're currently working with an outsourced development partner that can satisfy us up to about 1,000 subscribers. And our service and sales models are both founders based, but we will add resources as economics allow. And we're confident that we can run the business in that manner. From an intellectual property standpoint, we do have a patent pending on certain aspects of the application.
And how are we going to get to those 885,000 investment committees? Well, we're going to build into a distribution model, and we're going to work with large organizations to achieve this. I'm the former CIO of 2 Fortune 50 pension plans. And so we're obviously going to start with influencers and then go to aggregators and to monsters. Basically, we're going to use our reputation and connections to get into the C-suite. And as a result of the efforts that we've been doing, we are in discussions with a number of senior members of both aggregators and monsters. And we are, frankly, have really covered about 75% of institutional assets. All right, we have a very sophisticated beta user, and it is not only a beta user for just a 401k or a 457 program, it also has a healthcare program, it also does benefits, and it also does an investment committee. So we're using it and building it out on a variety of sources. And then we are in the midst of preparing our RFPs from the very, very large $1 trillion monsters. We are seasoned, we're committed, we are committed to essential workers, and we're committed to help the industry do better and do well.
Thank you so much. Perfect. All right, so thank you, John and Cynthia, for a great presentation. Let's roll into Q&A. So again, the order for the judges, and what we'll do is we'll have every judge start off with one question, and then we'll make another loop back around, or I'll ask, if anybody has any more questions. KJ, Alicia, then Sally, then Brian. So take it away, KJ.
Great, thank you. Great presentation. One of the things that I'm thinking about for this, which is a workflow tool, is getting adoption, right? So sometimes you can get top-down, force people to use this, but maybe they're not the ones that are actually going to be using the product or service, and it might be another product. Hey, here's another tool that you want me to use. Have you done any work to talk to the people that would actually use the product, and what confidence do you have that they will use it and they will stop using their existing tools, right? So for example, I've used a bunch of tools, and I kind of sometimes revert to the old school tools that I probably shouldn't be using, but it's just easier for me to use that because I'm used to it. So how do you actually get adoption from folks that you're looking to work with?
I think that's a great question, because frankly, I think the pain point for many people is the executive assistant. And, they have an unwritten kind of job description of over 40% of their time on meetings like this. And so we have been in discussions when we were in developing this. We had extensive discussions with a number of EAs that I know.
And KJ, to build on that, with our beta users, it's a great example of working with the individual that Cynthia's talking about, what we call the administrator, having them become the advocate for this product. So your competitive product really is Post-its, it's paper, it's Outlook, it's really all these disparate things that could be a big problem. This ease of conducting the meeting, as Cynthia said, they're kind of the linchpin at the center of this decision. So I hope that answers your question.
KJ, just to give you another example, this morning we were talking about literally who edits the minutes first. We have a default case, but frankly, in each committee, it's a little different. So building the flexibility to answer that question. Meetings are quite technical, it's sort of in their underpinnings.
And one kind of follow-up, I know I should just ask one question, is how much are you going to allow this to be very customizable? Because I imagine some institutions want to do certain things their own way, right? So how much freedom are you giving your customers to actually customize a tool, or is it just essentially, here it is and good luck?
Right now with the MVP, I wouldn't call it here it is and good luck. I think Cynthia's, in my experience in these committee rooms, we've nailed, I would say, 90% of the needs. So I think we're confident in what we have there, and certainly in our beta testing and our demos with these major platforms that Cynthia's talking about, folks get it. They understand that we're in the space and it meets most of the needs. I think the bigger need, in terms of the customization, would be a future release, if you want to call it that. Well, right now we've got a kind of a simplified format in capturing meeting minutes. Folks want the artificial intelligence and then the application to follow in, where you could literally put, one of these pucks in the middle of the room, Watson listens to the meeting and spits out the meeting minutes. So we're confident that, we've got most of the functionality there. From a customization standpoint, we're accommodating the changes, for example, of our beta client. And we can do things like white labeling and working with other technologies so it could be integrated into their solution and therefore be part of that building it to distribution.
Great, thank you.
All right, Alicia.
So John and Cynthia, I hate that I have to start out this way, but if people are tuning in and they've seen me judge in past years, they'll know that I'm a stickler for business plans that aren't filled with typos. And I was reading through your business plan and I saw Cisco misspelled, are possible repeated, in repeated, reflected spelled wrong. And even when I went through the patent application, I saw attendance spelled wrong, a nonce instead of a na. And so anyway, the reason I bring this up, and maybe this is also helpful for all the people listening in who will participate in the challenge going forward, is that, throughout this process, you've had a lot of people read the business plan. They spend a lot of time, and this is such a prestigious challenge that it's really something that's a little frustrating, especially given how seasoned and exemplary your backgrounds are. I will not dwell on that. That's a point that I'd like to make because I value the competition so greatly. I know that you've raised some outside money, and I remember reading that you had a pre-seed raise in process, or maybe you haven't, and then you're working on that now. How are you guiding potential investors to how they're going to get their money back? What is the exit strategy that you've been telling people?
The exit strategy is more of a strategic sale. So as one of our strategies in building it to distribution, Alicia,
who would be the potential people who would buy it?
So this could be, for example, a State Street or Bank of New York Mellon type organization, where in the space technology is becoming a highly competitive, high point of competition. It's also important because fees and margins are becoming compressed. So this accomplishes two things for an organization like those. Number one, it gives them something else in their toolkit to sell to their constituents, who are these investment committees. And then so, if they give it a try and they do a white label and they see the traction, this could become a differentiator for their platform itself, and therefore they want to own it.
Got it. Okay. So one of the other questions I had, and I sat on a number of boards, I sit on a publicly traded company board. A lot of times what you talk about in the meeting doesn't actually make it into the minutes. And sometimes that's on purpose, as you know. Sometimes there are things that, you say openly. if you have the information from the meeting goes into a draft minute, right? And that's everything that's said using the AI. And then later you edit it so that it represents just what the committee wants it to represent. Is there a possibility of subpoenaing that first set of draft minutes later in case? No. So what happens to that information?
So
the draft minutes are what, deleted forever? What? I'm seeing Cynthia shake her head. That's why I'm curious.
Yeah. So we've built in several protections for this. So number one, in the fiduciary module, we've actually built in records retention requirements that an organization can manage. So in the case of an ERISA plan, the meeting recording, if you want to call it that, can actually be deleted. So our default right out is to delete the recording because that's what Watson uses to turn speech to text, and then that speech to text goes through our artificial intelligence
And
module.
that recording can never be recovered.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
And is there an aspect of this that could be some aspect of the technology that you would create an international product from, or is this strictly US because of our, the way that things are set up here? Is there some potential outside of the US?
Absolutely. It would depend on the law. You certainly, it's an easy transition probably in trust law, Anglophile law. You'd have to make some adjustments. But I also want to go back to your other question. In terms of an exit sale, first of all, a lot of us, this was self-funded. The second thing is, if you're doing just the meeting room, it would probably, we like to call it the front end of diligent abort effect. All right, because they don't do what we do. The other thing that is only beginning to be scratched at the surface is what you can do with the information. So let me give you a couple of examples of why this is so dynamic.
Cynthia, I have a couple more questions, and I know we're going to be short on time. I saw that you have Tom Phillips as an advisor in your plan. Are there other advisors too, or is it just that one as of now?
Just the one right now.
Got it. Okay. And how did you get to the beta client? What was the connection?
I have a long history with the beta client.
Got it. And when you're thinking about selling the product, are you thinking about multi-year discounts to sign people up for longer? If so, what is that structure that you're considering?
Sure. Right now, we're just going with an annual subscription, and it's pretty standard, Alicia. I think you're bringing up a good point of feedback. It's pay up front. You get roughly a 15% discount, or subscribe month to month. Certainly, as we have entered discussions with these monsters, if you want to call it that, distributors, the multi-year discounts and just the platform discounts, if you want to call it that, are coming into play. So we've got room in the margin to do this. We're cognizant of wanting to build the following. So we, especially in that white labeling, in the building into distribution, we're definitely considering discounts, but are comfortable we can still have this being profitable.
Got it. I'll stop. Over to you, Phoebe.
All right, Sally, let's have you go.
Sure. Yeah, congratulations. I love how Fiduciary AI platform is looking clean and sleek, and the UX seems pretty straightforward too. And I love that how you guys are targeting such niche market. My first question will be on the technology feasibility part. Automation with machine learning data science can be quite heavy to build, and automation can always make a mistake. So I would like to know, like, when the automation features are completed, how do you avoid those mistakes? Would there be a human touch after each features?
Sure. So in terms of the automation, we have the product is built. The MVP has built in all of these automations and all these workflows already, and that was painful. It was a lot of it. So we've gone through that process already.
Of testing.
Absolutely. Right. There still are issues that we have, and I think we're following just more of a software customer service model. As issues come up, we are in constant contact either by intercom, or we've got by phone and email support as well, where these issues come up, and we note issues in the workflows. And finally, having the blessing of working with such a sophisticated beta user, they're really kicking the tires in every aspect of this portfolio. So, to answer your question, I think we've really tried to be thoughtful because of the importance of the how well this process runs, that we were very conscious in testing. We recognize things may go wrong, and we're depending on a service model and communication and immediate follow-up and fixing of those issues to address any further issues.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you guys have done the QA part and its continuous cycle. My second question would be, what was the adoption rate with your beta users or the previous users? Because if there's a high churn rate, the sales number won't match with your financial projections.
This is meant to be sticky, so you're going to acquire customers slowly as they customize. All right. So in our area, if you adopt a system like this, you're looking at a 5 to 10 year horizon. It's very, very sticky because this is so integral. We like to say that if this is successful, it becomes invisible, because this, meetings are living, and the cycle is a living cycle. So if we do our job, we have them for a very long, foreseeable horizon.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I would like to hand over to Brian, but before that, I think there needs to be a little more key differentiator for the future. I think you guys are having a really great platform, but also think about picking up those disagreements or conflicts through words or emotions by voice recognition. So check out Maxflow.ai. It was developed by Google engineers in the past, so I would recommend that. But great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
I worked.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, hi. So I worked with IBM for a little bit, almost 20 years. They were a miserable failure in the world of Watson. Their reputation and brand for Watson is horrible and despicable. So it's kind of interesting that you put them up there powered by Watson. But let me go into my question. You use the word, well, actually, no, you use AI. I don't understand where AI is actually involved in what you're doing. All too often, I see people using AI as a sprinkling of pixie dust. It sounds like you're just in the meeting management system. I don't understand what you actually do. So a meeting takes place. IBM Watson is listening. Meeting minutes get created. What about the investment management part? Who makes those choices? And what are the legalities of that? Because I know that's also been challenged in court. So I'm really confused as to what business you're actually in.
Sure. So if we, let me give an example from 401k plans, pension plans. It's called ERISA law, essentially. This would be more of an administrative tool. This is not an investment management tool like a robo-advisor would have you. This is strictly workflow support. And you talk about there are a lot of tools already existing out there to help make investment decisions, meaning analyzing investments, et cetera. What fiduciary AI does is make sure that you don't miss anything as you're making that decision. You need
so it's a meeting management. So it's a meeting management system.
Fiduciary part of it. That's the meeting manager. So literally the meeting manager module where
that's all it does. It just manages the meeting.
No,
it does not. We've got a fiduciary module which gives you suggested topics to cover throughout the year, because if you don't cover those topics, you're going to get sued. Second, it provides the efficiency of mitigating those $20,000 to $250,000 a year costs in managing the people, planning the meetings, actually pulling together all the materials. And
so where is the true? So go back. Where is the true AI? I don't understand where the AI comes in and why you even need Watson.
Sure, we do need Watson. AI is in the meeting room itself.
Doing what? Doing what? Doing exactly what?
Listening to the meeting.
AI does more than just listen. What does it do?
Understood. Keep getting there. Turning the speech to text against libraries that we have trained to listen to things such as actuarial terms. We've programmed all the names of every investment manager in the world so that when Watson hears and processes certain names, it can make an intelligent decision on, okay, I know they're talking about an investment manager, or I know they're talking about a pension plan, so I can format the meeting minutes this way. So it's
Brian, we may have chosen Watson for a different reason than its excellence in the AI area. First of all, when we took a look, it was the only one that really had HIPAA security, okay? And that is paramount for the investment area. Secondly, it was well documented. And as you know, in the investment area, people really like to know. We are totally open over time to taking a look at the upgrades in artificial intelligence. I also say that we also believe that we're only scratching the surface what AI can do, and I'll give you a good example. One of the things that is coming up in litigation is the fact that you don't have the share class. You have a more expensive share class. We believe artificial intelligence combined with performance analytics services, and that's why you find us looking at these large white labeling where you can extend what we do into use more artificial intelligence and really do some very creative things on that. The other thing is that there are decisions coming out of committees, which is a real source of data for many, many others in the investment industry, asset managers and things like this. This is again where you're going to use words, or where I can see an extension of artificial intelligence. Okay.
Yeah, I just don't see where the AI is actually really true AI. Being able to go and look up the name of somebody and know that that's someone that is important, that's not AI.
All right, I think we've got maybe 2 minutes. Is that right, Danny?
2 minutes.
All right. Any more questions or comments from the judges? And up
I'm
for
curious. So I follow some of your competitors out there, Diligent in particular. Are you planning on doing webinars to, I don't know, build your brand, get the word out there, educate people on this topic?
Absolutely. You know, we've had really great opportunities. You know, one of the slides we went over, sorry, kerfuffle here. You know, the influencers, that bottom left, that black part of the screen. Given our experience, you know, we do have access to some larger, you know, and better known pension plans, 401k plans. And so our webinars, if you want to call it that, have been reaching out to these influencers. We've in turn gotten further invites to talk to everything from industry organizations to, you know, some of these larger investment organizations. So we're building the word, you know, by starting out with influencers who, so we're going in with some credibility and you know, through the webinars. And you know, may we be blessed in the next month to go to be giving webinars internally to salespeople at one of these monsters.
And the other question I had was, so a lot of these people who are sitting on the investment committees, they're sitting on a number of other committees. Mm-hmm. But so is your plan to eventually be able to service other committees too, or are you just sticking with investment committees? Because meanwhile, you know, these individuals, as you know, are kind of managing processes across all these other meetings too. And it just seems like if this works well, they probably want to use it elsewhere. I mean, how are you thinking about that?
You nailed it. Our TAM is really what we know. It's the investment, you know, and where we see the pain points in the investment management industry. The chassis we've built can easily be put out to, you know, maybe a little more sophisticated, for example, mutual fund committee, but more importantly, local governments, et cetera. And then it opens up other revenue opportunities, right? Because these are publicly available and you could get advertising, things like that. The chassis is flexible enough to change agenda topics based upon who's conducting these meetings, like, and it could be a local government.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but sticking within the investment committee?
Not necessarily.
No.
I think it's about training the you know, the language and extending, but the structure. Remember,
but that's where you're starting.
AI, it's all Robert's rules.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just as a follow-up to the AI, what are some of the algorithms that you're using?
We're using Watson Knowledge. Excuse me?
30 seconds to answer.
Sure. We're using Watson Knowledge Studio. This is where we've built all of our libraries, which speech to text is washed through and comes up with pre-formatted professional meeting minutes that conform with ERISA requirements. That's where the AI is. So we're using Watson Knowledge Studio. It's you know, primarily, you know, natural language recognition and natural language understanding.
All right. Thank you so much, John and Cynthia. I don't know if the teams necessarily love it, but I love that these can get so intense sometimes.
Oh, good. I love it.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.